All right, I am gonna show you guys a couple of my newest favorite thoracic rotation drills for spinal mobility. So this is actually stuff that I've been working on myself in physical therapy. I've been dealing with some rotator cuff issues on my right shoulder for a while. And one of the things that we're finding with my physical therapist, who I'll actually link her contact info below, is that my spinal position is compromising the position of my shoulder and specifically my rotator cuff, so it can't express the strength that it does have the way that it should. So if your spine isn't in a nice neutral position, the shoulder itself is going to be seated in a bad position. So if I've got a fairly rounded mid-back or thoracic spine, so my posture tends to default more towards this, and that pulls my shoulder here, so it rolls everything in and it doesn't put the musculature of that shoulder into a good spot. So before I address rotator cuffs specifically in my workouts, we do thoracic mobility. So specifically, we're working on some rotation stuff, because especially anytime we're doing something one side at a time, so like a single arm press or row, or even like split stance stuff like leg work, if the spine can't rotate correctly side to side, there's going to be some sort of compensation either in the shoulder joint if it's upper body stuff, or it could create compensation at the hips if we're talking like a split squat, lunge, single leg deadlift, something like that. So the two things that we're doing kind of go above and beyond the really common rotation things. The most common one is just something called a thread the needle. It's fairly passive. The things that we're going to do here kind of add a little bit to it, so we're hitting the spine from multiple directions and not just in a simple rotate one side to the other. So so the first thing that we're going to go over is a kettlebell drill. So this is a weighted drill. We're going to actually use the resistance from the kettlebell to kind of create some additional rotation, so we don't have to force it as hard, because the kettlebell is going to kind of do that for us. So we're going to call this, because I don't know if this is technically what this drill is called, we're going to call it a kettlebell armbar thoracic rotation. So we're going to take a kettlebell. This is a fairly heavy kettlebell. This is a 12 kilogram kettlebell, which is a little bit over 25 pounds. I'm going to get down onto the ground. I'm going to bring this arm up, make sure I've got a good grip on the kettlebell. I'm going to rotate completely onto my side. So this arm is extended all the way up, and then my legs are stacked on top of each other. My legs are bent at about a 90-degree angle at the hip. Okay, so I'm here. I'm going to take my free hand. I'm just going to use this to anchor my legs to the floor, because as I do this drill, the weight's going to want to pull my legs up off the ground. I'm just going to anchor them here, so there really isn't going to be much movement off of the hip. I want to create a bunch of movement up here at my spine. So this really centers around the ability to breathe at the correct times with this. So I'm going to inhale while I bring the kettlebell down to my chest. So I'm going to breathe in to get it here, and then I'm going to breathe out as I let the weight of the kettlebell pull me over. Again, holding here so I don't twist too much. Go as far as I can, and then drive right back up to the start position. So again, inhale, exhale, and then press back up. So usually within a good 6 or 8 reps, I've gotten about as much movement as I'm going to get for the day. So frequency is not a bad way to go with this. I will do this just 1, maybe 2 rounds before any upper body work that I'm doing. But beyond those 1 or 2 rounds, you're not necessarily looking to gain all your range of motion in one shot. So obviously cover both sides, because you very well might have different levels of rotation on each side. So like I have issues with my right shoulder, but when I do the left arm, I have less rotation when I have the weight in my left arm. So don't just assume if you have pain or limitation present just on one side that you should only do one side. Make sure you do both. So that's exercise number 1 here. So our second movement is going to be another rotational drill. This one is going to actually require the use of a wall. Just like with the last exercise, one of the things I'm really trying to do is stabilize myself at the hips, so any movement that I'm getting is coming from my spine specifically. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a half kneeling position, so just one knee down, the other foot is out. The inside leg is the one we want to take a knee with. And then I want to be right up against this wall as best as I can. Ideally, you'll want a pretty good chunk of wall to work with. So what I'm gonna do is almost kind of like a rainbow arc sort of a motion. So we're not just going purely rotating this way, we're gonna add some extra layers to it. So there's some flexion and rotation kind of coordinated together. So I'm gonna bring my hands behind my head like this, and I'm gonna keep this arm in contact with the wall throughout this entire motion. So I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna start the movement by just dropping this elbow down and trying to rotate as far as I can, almost like I wanna put this elbow back against the wall. Now, if I had a little bit better rotation, I might be able to do that, but I'm gonna exhale during the rotation. Then I'm gonna inhale as I bring this arm up the wall. And once I get all the way around my own body, then I wanna start exhaling again and try to go as far this way as I can. So, and now again, as I go the other way, I'm breathing in and then breathing out. Keeping my hands against my head so I can make sure I'm moving from my spine and not just from my shoulders. Breathe in. And then breathe out. Trying to, again, keep that contact point with the wall. So there's some flexion and some rotation all coordinated together. This is great for going after muscles like the QL, which requires some flexion and some rotation together. So again, maybe 5 or 8 reps. One of the huge parts of that one is getting the breathing coordinated. So again, as you're in this kind of like passive, there's no resistance, you inhale, and then you exhale as you're trying to drive the spinal movement, and then same thing when you go the other direction. Like I said, make sure you do both sides. So I like to use the weighted version first and then follow it with this one, just because the weight creates a little bit more of a passive range, so that way I can get a little further when I do this one. So 1 or 2 rounds of each of these prior to starting your big work, especially if it's like a shoulder day or a back day where you might have a lot of unilateral stuff. Give this a shot. Let me know what you think. If you got questions, make sure you post them in the comments. If you like the video, make sure you like it and subscribe to our channel so you can get more of these when they come out. Thanks.